Okay, a lot of you guys as fitness coaches out there are pretty much running in circles. What I mean by this is you're doing a lot of effort, you're putting in 12 to 16-hour days into your business, yet you're only making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. In that case, more effort is not going to get you to 50K a month or 100K a month. It's the vehicle in which you're inputting your effort into. Do you actually have leverage in your system? That is the question. So today we're going to be going over how to build offers, how to perfect your offer, and especially as a fitness coach, the market is so saturated. There's so many, I help X achieve Y outcome in Z time, the whole Alex Hormozi framework that you've probably been following, but yet you're probably only making 5K a month, okay? So we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna be talking about selecting offers, how to pick offers, and exactly what offer you should do as a fitness coach so then you can scale effortlessly. Let's jump into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to share with you guys how I pretty much went from being a commoditized, overworked coach, making basically nothing, doing like $5,000 a month, to being able to make $50,000 a month in 7 months. Okay, and one of the biggest factors that allowed me to do this was simply offloading a lot of my strain or a laborious activities, specifically just on my offer. Okay, I was able to allow my offer and certain systems that I put into place to simply do the work. Okay. And this is where leverage comes in. And this is what kind of allows you to scale your coaching business with a lot more ease. Okay. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. A lot of you guys are working exceptionally hard. You know, you're doing massive days, 12-hour, 16-hour days. I've been there myself. I totally understand. But you got to realize that the person who's making 10 times more money than you isn't working 10 times harder than you. This is a hard lesson that I had to learn myself. Okay. Cool. So this is going to be a long form video. It's going to be one of the longest on my channel. I've spent the last 2 weeks putting this together with my team and kind of going and dipping into client data, past clients, my past, several clients, and pretty much compiling success stories, compiling, okay, what offers have worked, what offers haven't worked, especially in the fitness niche, to then point you guys in the right direction or in the direction that you shouldn't be going. Because if you want to go in the right direction, you can go in the right direction, or you can simply just go in the opposite of the wrong direction, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's what we're going to be going through today. So most coaches right now, they want to hit 20K, they want to hit 50K a month, 100K a month, etc., but they have no idea how to get to that point. A lot of you guys are very lost. You're simply doing things because people online have said to do them. Oh, you got to post on Instagram, and you got to do organic, whatever this, you got to do cold DMs, you have to post, like, you have to do this funnel, got to link your supplement code or whatever, right? And there's all these paradigms about what you should do and how you should make an offer, and a lot of them are wrong. Average fitness coach makes 2K a month, average. So when you're taking advice from someone, just average person is most likely going to be in that range. You're going to get to the same position that they are in. You're not going to take someone's advice who's making 10K a month and gets to 500K a month with it. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And the problem is a lot of coaches right now are often blind to what's really holding them back. And the worst problems are the ones you don't even know exist. Okay. You don't know what you don't know. Okay. A lot of coaches make decisions based on fear. Okay. What I mean by that is right now, especially in the coaching space, a lot of coaches have this kind of hustle culture mentality. Oh, I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to do all this work. But even Warren Buffett said himself, it's not how hard you row, it's what boat you are in. Okay. And a lot of coaches, they're disciplined with the gym. They got jacked because they were disciplined and they were doing the right things, from a level of discipline. But then they now start their business, they're disciplined, they're working hard, and they're not getting the same level of success. Okay. They think it directly translates, because it's not how hard you row, it's what boat you are in. Okay. And then pretty much if you're doing that and you're just kind of doing random activities because you don't want to be stagnant and you're scared of being, in one position, then success is kind of like up to chance. Building a hyper successful business cannot be created by guessing. You must focus on creating mastery and excellence in your business. And this training, I'm going to reveal exactly why a lot of coaches, a lot of you guys, will never hit the revenue goals that you guys set, no matter how hard you work. Okay, I want you to take work out of the equation right now, because work is something that can be literally bought. I want you to realize that. For $10 an hour, you can buy work, you can buy labor. Okay? Instead of this video, you'll learn how to avoid that trap and actually increase your current MRR while working less. Okay? Like I said before, labor can be bought. Anyone can go and, with a little bit of capital, can go and spend $10 an hour and get a base level worker. Okay, so it's not work or effort that is a bottleneck. It's how smart your ideas are, how intellectual your insights are, what market you're in, what is your offerings. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit of introduction. What are my requests from you today? So number one, pay attention. Okay, if you don't value this, then you're not going to value pretty much. You're not valuing getting to the next level in your coaching business. Shut off your phone. Get your phone out of sight, out of mind, and maybe get a notepad so you can take notes along the way here. Okay. You are the only one responsible for your successes or failures. You are the one responsible for learning and scaling your business. No one else. You owe it to yourself to absorb the next couple hours with me. Okay, I'll tell you this. If you cannot sit still and focus for a few hours to get all the answers you need to live your dream life, the simple truth is you just simply don't deserve it. Okay? You just don't deserve success. Okay? So take your phone, throw it away, get it out of your sight. If your girlfriend calls you, you can maybe pick up. But let's focus and lock in here, okay? Okay. So the first section that we're going to pretty much talk about is leverage. Okay? I'm going to try to give you guys my best explanation on leverage, because if you can understand what leverage is, you can understand how that can be applied in your business. Okay? So over the last few years, it pretty much has seemed like almost every online guru. You got Andy Elliott, you got like Andrew Tate, you got David Goggins. All these people are preaching you just got to work hard, do more volume, do more volume, do more volume. And it's going to solve every issue in your business. And there's a huge emphasis on how much hours you work and how much input you do. And people boast about it. Oh, I post 5 times a day on Instagram, or I work 12 hours a day. And they have this like, oh, I outwork everyone mentality. Okay? When in reality, would you rather be like, it's a coping mechanism. Okay? A lot of the times these people are boasting and they have pride in it. Okay? When it's just a coping mechanism for fear. Most people don't want to spend the mental energy to slow down, zoom out, and think differently about their systems. The brain is wired to avoid discomfort. Your brain is always trying to take the easiest path, the path of least resistance. Okay? And for a lot of people, especially in the coaching space, it feels safer to stay busy doing what's familiar than to pause and challenge the way things are done. Okay? Because the simple truth is you can't get rich by working hard. Okay? A lot of you guys boast about it. Oh, I work with this much. Would you rather make $100,000 a month or just simply work hard? Okay, farmers work hard. Okay, who else? Garbage men work hard. Okay, strawberry pickers work hard. They make $2 an hour or whatever in the States. Okay, I'm Canadian, so. Okay, so the whole point of becoming a business owner is to disconnect your time from your income to maximize the freedom during the short time we have on this planet. We don't have too long. Your goal is to, enjoy the fruits of earth, life, creation, etc., whatever you want to label it as. It isn't to be a glorified employee sitting under LED lights in your little cubicle, or maybe in like that same thing in your business. Okay, you quit your job. Oh, I'm gonna be a hustler. I'm gonna start my own business. I'm an entrepreneur. And then now you just hired yourself to work in your own business, being a slave to your clients. Funny how that swap kind of works. Okay? Only to be proud of wasting hours of your life that it took another coach to do the same thing in a few minutes. Okay? This is what pisses me off a lot of the times. For me, it took me like almost a year to make my first $10,000 month. Okay? And then I see guys on TikTok or Instagram who are like 17, 18 years old who are like, oh, I just hit my first 100K month after a couple months. Okay? The reason they were able to do that is not because they were working harder, was because that they knew something I didn't know. They were leveraged in ways that I wasn't leveraged. Okay? And that's what pisses me off. Okay? I wasted time not being leveraged. Okay? So I can personally tell you this with absolute conviction. Making 50K a month is massively easier. Making 100K a month is massively easier than making 5K a month. Okay? It probably sounds ridiculous. But when I was making 5 to roughly 7K a month, I was slammed. Okay. I would do like 3 to 4 hours, like roughly 3 to 4 hours on just client work, dealing with clients, expectations, whatever. 1 to 2 hours of sales calls for clients of my clients, 2 to 3 hours of sales and cold outreach for my own business, 2 hours of refining my actual marketing engine, and then 2 hours of learning, refining new inputs, reading, etc. Okay, this was my day, and the more clients I take on, the more I'd be in that client and fulfillment, the more I'd be trying to sell, the more I'd be trying to do sales and marketing for myself, and the system was capped. Okay, when I hit 10K a month with this, I was like literally sitting at my desk for 16 hours a day in pain. Okay, and taking on more clients was like trying to force water into a bucket that was on the verge of overflowing. Okay. Nowadays, my day-to-day is busy, but it's not the same as before. I get up, I exercise, I do some writing in the morning, I do some client work, maybe a couple meetings, etc., and then maybe a couple hours of sales calls that are booked onto my calendar. And for me, sales calls are really chill. This is one thing that a lot of guys don't do, is if I'm on a sales call with someone, I don't see that as like a test. A lot of like salesmen will be like, I'm going to review my sales calls and see what I did wrong so that I can improve for next time. And they judge themselves on the performance if they were able to close that person. And I literally go on and just like, I'm going to have a chat with them. It's kind of a break for me. It's relaxing. I'm not like super stressed. Just have a chat, right? So I don't really even view that as work, in my opinion. But yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Okay? Everybody. No exceptions. Okay, if you want to increase the output of those 24 hours, you need leverage. Okay, a system that allows you to multiply your efforts. So everyone gets the same amount of hours. It doesn't matter specifically. It doesn't matter how hard you work within those 24 hours. It matters what you spend your time on. That's what I'm trying to say. Some people work 9 to 5s with those 24 hours. Okay, and then some people build a leverage system with those 24 hours. Okay. The difference between the guy making 10K a month and the guy making 100K a month isn't that he's working 10 times harder. In fact, he's probably, like, this is a hard thing for a lot of people to realize, he's most likely working less, okay? Because he's probably built a system that is leveraged, that has allowed him to do what he wants with his time, that has allowed him to get to 100K a month, okay? So hard work can get you from 0 to 10K a month, maybe even 20K a month, but to go from 20K a month to 200K a month, no amount of more volume will simply get you there. Okay? And what leverage is, from a base level of what is leverage, Ashton? All leverage is a skewed input to output ratio. Okay? That it is not even. Okay? So, for example, if I'm putting in an effort of 1 and I'm getting an output of 2, my leverage is 1 to 2. My ratio is 1 to 2. Okay? But if I'm doing one input and I'm receiving one output, now I have to put that input to get the same output out. Okay? And where leverage comes from, it comes from fulcrums. Okay? So Archimedes says, give me a lever long enough and I can lift the world. Okay? So same thing applies in your business. We are looking for leverage. We are looking to move the fulcrum around so that we can gain a load advantage. Oh, okay. Yeah. We are looking to gain a load advantage, magnify our efforts, because we can only do so much effort in a day. Okay. We can only do so much, but how do we input that into a system? So it's very important to understand leverage, because this arises in physics. I studied leverage in physics, and our entire purpose, our entire goal is to find the placement of that lever, to find exactly if we can do one input of effort and receive 10 output, okay, from that initial input, then now, if we're working 24 hours a day on that input, we're going to be having massive returns, okay? So this arises in physics. Our goal is to find that leverage, that multiplier, okay? A strong offer leads to a high closing rate from the same number of calls, while a weak one forces you to rely on volume to just survive. So when someone tells you online that you have to just do more volume, they probably don't know the answer to what they're trying to solve. I hate to say it. Oh, just do more work. When someone says do more work, it's most of the time a cope for the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, because do more work is like a band-aid solution for everything. Oh, you're not losing weight? Oh, just do more work. Just work out more. It's like, okay, well, there's so many other factors. Okay. So I hope that gave you kind of like a good lesson on leverage. It's not how much work you do. It's not the volume you do. Your offer is highly dependent, or your leverage is highly dependent on your offer. And nailing this will give you so much leverage in your closing rate, so much leverage in the amount of calls you get, in your brand, etc. Okay. So how do you actually build a offer? So we're going to be talking about this right now. Okay. So building a build and release style offer. Okay. So the first step starts with actually building this. Okay. So since COVID, thousands of gym owners, in-person coaches, practically anyone who had fitness experience rushed online. Okay. This resulted in a massive increase of online fitness coaches. Okay. So what happened was, like COVID hit, you can't work out in person. So all of those in-person people had to go online in order to make money. And the market just like blew up in terms of the amount of competitors that were in that market. Okay. And now what we see is the top 5% of coaches end up controlling 95% of the market. Okay. While the remaining 95% of coaches are left fighting for scraps, which is the last 5%. Okay. It's kind of a hierarchy. Okay. And with so many clones in the market, everyone starts to look the same, sound the same, sell the same thing, supplement this, discount code this, right? Boot camp this. Like it's become very commoditized. Okay. This results in that 95% of those coaches that I said fighting for that 5% being commoditized. Okay. So what is a commodity? Okay. Let's look at actually like from an economic standpoint what a commodity is. Okay. In economics, a commodity is a raw material or primary agricultural product that is interchangeable with another of the same type. This means that the origin or producer of the commodity doesn't significantly affect its value or function, making it easily replaceable with another kind of the same value. So what this means is if I get gold from Africa or if I get gold from South America, that gold at the end of the day is still gold. There is still a global price for gold. Okay, there is still a price globally of the current price per ounce of gold. Okay, so a lot of you guys, especially online, are doing the exact same things that other people are doing, and you're repackaging it in a way that is like slightly being different, but you're commoditized. Okay, you're selling the exact same thing. Okay, period. Selling the exact same thing. Okay, so gold is an example of a commodity. Gold is gold. There's no difference between two sellers except for the price. Therefore, whoever offers it at the lowest price will always make the sale. Okay, so if I'm selling gold at 3.3K for an ounce or 2.8K for an ounce, no one really gives a shit. It's gold. Okay, so the same with you guys. You guys are offering the same solutions across all of the stuff you're doing. Oh, I'm a fitness coach. I help people lose weight. Okay, and you're selling it for however much you want to sell it for. The person who sells it for the cheapest will usually win because it's the same shit. Okay. And consumers and customers are starting to realize this more and more and more. Okay. And what happens is when your marketing and sales, and your entire kind of brand is commoditized, you have the same sort of content, the same sort of messaging, the same sort of whatever as all of these other coaches. You're leading without uniqueness. You're selling instead of educating. Okay. And your offer becomes pretty much the same commoditized service as everyone else. I help people lose weight. I help white collar professionals, blah, 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 blah. I'm a fitness coach for men, executive men, whatever. Okay. And you price competitively because you think that, oh, I'm going to, I'm not going to price super high. I'm not going to price super low. I'm going to price in the middle, price competitively. And people buy because you're priced kind of low as well. And then because you're priced low, customers don't have a 100% emotional commitment to working with you and only you. And then because they're not emotionally committed, that leads to bad client results. Okay. And clients that are also demanding. Okay. Most of the times, the clients that pay the least are the most demanding. The clients that pay the most are super chill. Okay. And that comes from commitment. okay, which we don't have any here. And this results in more of your time being diluted servicing clients, okay, and less time actually acquiring clients and building assets because you're servicing these bad clients. And because you get no results because these clients are not committed, you have no case studies and less revenue. Okay, case studies and revenue go hand in hand. The more case studies and testimonials you have, the more revenue you should be making. Okay, and because of that, it's harder to get clients without proof in the future. And then you drop the price again to keep up with the competition. Oh, I'm going to drop my price again because I am going to try to be more competitive again. And then that leads to people solely buying your process because of the price again. So you see this flywheel that happens. People, it just goes, it loops constantly. And it starts with price, and it happens to do with being commoditized, offering the same thing as everyone else and pricing competitively, whatever that means, competitively. Okay? When there's no real difference between offers of Coach A and Coach B, the only thing left to compete on is price. Okay? And once you start down that path, it's a race to the bottom very quickly. Okay? So the thing that you need that in your offer that has to be different is uniqueness. Okay? You need something that is unique, something that is different in a different market, servicing with a different mechanism. Okay? I hate to say it, but so many of you guys are just clones of one another. Okay? And it's very bad. Okay? These coaches offer the same services, structured the same way, priced just a little lower, hoping and praying that it's enough to make sales. Okay? Instead of relying on hope, you need to move away from being a commoditized service provider. You have to remember the competition only exists when you are comparable. Competition is only a thing when you have similarities. Okay? As you move up the ladder and start creating something truly valuable, fewer people are competing at that level. Okay? So for example, Toyota and Hyundai or whatever these two car brands are, okay? That is a direct competitor because they look the exact same, they're priced pretty much the same, they're around the same. Okay? However, Ferrari doesn't compete with Toyota. They only have a small handful of competitors, and none of them are chosen based on who's cheapest. Okay? If someone's buying a Ferrari, they're not buying that Ferrari because it's the cheapest. Okay? They're going to buy that car because they have the budget, and that's the best car that they possibly want. Those are the sort of clients that we want in our coaching business, the people who have a genuine burning desire, not from I'm going to save money perspective. It's from I really need to work with this guy because he's going to actually change my life, not, this guy's pretty cheap and the other guy was like $300 more, so I'm going to go with him. That client will never be successful, and those sort of clients will never make you a lot of money. If you have a handful of those clients, you will forever be in slave work for those clients, and you will forever probably be stuck under $10,000 a month with those sort of clients. Those are not seven-figure clients. Okay? Cool. So, back to Ferrari. Okay? So, Ferrari, they spent their time creating the product itself and creating one of the best solutions in the marketplace. Okay? Therefore, they aren't compared on price and are able to charge based on the value provided, not who can go the lowest. Okay? Your goal is to do the exact same thing. Build the best possible solution. One that bridges the entire gap for your prospects from where they are right now, okay, which should be similar for most of your clients, to where they want to get to. Okay? Not the one that is the cheapest. Okay? Your business is meant to provide a transformation. Okay? Ferrari does the same thing. The transformation Ferrari gives you is, let's just say, someone who doesn't feel confident or whatever, to confidence, women, money, status, wind blowing in hair going down the street, right? Ferrari sells a dream, a transformation from current shitty situation to dream, desire, status, amazing status icon that gets females, whatever. Okay? And you in your coaching business, your goal is to do the same thing. bridge the entire gap, build the best possible solution so that when someone thinks in your niche, okay, I want to reach this desire of, losing 30 pounds and, looking like an absolute aesthetic freak or whatever. So then when I go to the beach, I look excellent. They're thinking, okay, I know that this guy can reach that with 100% certainty for me. Okay? So now we're going to jump into actually how to bridge the entire gap. Okay? Because this is very important. A lot of you guys, what you guys are doing is when you're providing a solution, you're only focusing on a portion of that solution. Okay? You're not delivering the entirety of the solution. Therefore, you are making less money because you're not able to charge as much. There's less value in your offer, and you're actually helping your clients less. We're going to jump into this right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be talking about kind of what this looks like in terms of bridging the entire gap and how this relates kind of to your offer. Okay? So the first thing you have to realize is people are not buying a service. No one has ever bought fitness for a service being like looking a little bit cooler than another service. Okay? People are buying the transformation. The reason why someone will even consider using you as a fitness coach is because they want the transformation. Okay? A lot of the time, these people don't care how they get their transformation. They just want the transformation in the easiest kind of way possible. That's why we actually see a lot of people who go and do like plastic surgery or cryotherapy or like these niche sort of ways to get the fat off without having to go through pain. Okay? So you have to realize no one wants Facebook ads. No one wants a meal plan. Okay? They want to make enough revenue to have freedom, or they want a six-pack. Okay? This is kind of relating to two different markets. Okay? The goal is to get them all the way to that point, not just bridge a section of it. Okay? A lot of you guys just sell a meal plan or just sell like supplements. Okay? Bridge the entire gap. Make an entire solution that you can then solve for the entire transformation and then charge high ticket for it. Okay? So if you pretty much map this out, what this looks like is, let's say someone is completely out of shape. Okay? You have to identify where that person is. Who is that niche that you're helping? What do they look like? Where are they at when they're starting out? Okay? And then what is every factor within that equation to getting them to their dream outcome? Okay? Is that a meal plan? Is that a diet plan? Is there accountability? Is there a software? Is there a check-in system? Is there some sort of, thing for them to follow on this thing? Is there a person or community? Like, what is every single factor? Motivation, like everything you got to think of. Okay? And the way you can do this is you need to identify every key obstacle your prospect faces and build a solution that removes each one. Okay? So it's not that we can't reach our goals. It's that there's obstacles that are there stopping us from reaching our goals. Okay? So it's not that I, can't lose weight. It's that I can't stop eating, or the gummy bears are there at night, or I overeat the chips, or I don't have the motivation to go to the gym. Okay? It's obstacles. It's not it's removing those obstacles that will allow you to get ahead, not just getting ahead, if that makes sense. Okay? So what you can do, an exercise you can do, is map out the obstacles that prospects will face. Okay? Is it clarity on your workout, or is it just accountability? Is there sort of habits there? Is there a mental aspect? Is there tracking to this? Okay? Is there a community? Like things that you have to keep in mind that if those obstacles are not there, will allow them to get to their dream outcome. Okay? One of the things that I did when I was starting out is, okay, I want to hit $10,000 a month. Okay? What are the obstacles that are going to stop me from making $10,000 a month? Okay. Not enough people seeing my shit. Okay? So not enough impressions. Flat out. Okay? Not enough meetings. Okay? If I don't get any meetings, I won't get any sales. That's a given. Okay? Not having a good offer. Okay? Not being in a good market. Not having social proof, testimonials, etc. Not having a funnel. Okay? So now we're at 6, just top of mind. Okay? If I can solve for each of those for myself, then I can guarantee myself the transformation. And this is what we're providing to these people. Okay? I hope this makes sense. Okay? So ask yourself, what are the obstacles that would keep your prospect in their painful situation from going all the way to their desired situation? Okay? What are they? You have to map these out. So structured training, okay? If there's no structured training or nutrition, so there's a negative and a positive. The obstacle is the negative, no structured training or nutrition. Okay, and the upside is custom workout and meal plan. Okay. Number 2, lack of clarity and knowledge. Okay. Are we going to implement one-on-one coaching, video assets, SMS support? Okay. 3, no accountability. Are there going to be weekly check-ins? Can't stick to habits, poor mindset, poor recovery, confusion around supplements, lifestyle, injuries. Okay. These are things, just base level, that I help my clients implement because these are probably the biggest things, that obstacles that people will see when they're starting out in fitness. Okay. And the goal is, once you have all these problems, it's very easy to go and make a solution. The difficulty is finding the problem most of the time. The solution is like pretty straightforward most of the time. Okay. Oh, people aren't disciplined. Okay. Well, how do we create a system that forces people to be accountable to their goals? Okay. That's just an example. Okay. Little Celsius break. Okay. So now what we're doing with our offer, now that we have these problems, okay, and we have these solutions, all we're doing is finding this transformation. So this is all an offer is. Okay, a lot of you guys think an offer is like some crazy thing. An offer is simply a transformation. Okay, it's bringing someone from A to B. That's all an offer is. Any business is delivering a transformation. Think of any business. Dentistry, okay, fixing people's teeth. Okay, I had braces before. Okay, when I was younger, I had braces. The transformation they're providing is crooked teeth to straight teeth. That's the transformation. Okay, what are the hurdles? Okay, you got to come in and get your braces tightened. You got to do wires. You got to do this. You got to do that. Retainer after. Implementing all of these systems. Okay, so your goal in your fitness business is to map out this current state of your prospect. So this is your market. Who are you actually addressing this to? What is their current state? Okay. What are all the hurdles and pain that they're going through? All of these things, etc. Okay. And like whatever it is, okay, whatever these things are, you have to map these out and then bringing them to their desired state. Okay. Because these are the things, point A to point B. Okay. If you're driving on a road from one location to another, okay, what's going to stop you from getting there? You need gas. I'm rambling right now, but I hope this kind of makes sense. Okay. So you're listing out all the possible failure scenarios and creating mechanisms to solve for each one. Okay. This helps you build a comprehensive offer that addresses potential issues proactively before they occur. And this is the biggest thing that a lot of people don't do. They don't address things before they happen, and they're setting their clients up for failure. Okay. And what you can do is, because you're solving for an entire transformation, not just a segment of it, now you can charge more. Now you can charge high ticket. Now when you're charging high ticket, people are going to be committed to the entire transformation. Okay? You're not charging based on, oh, here's a bunch of sessions for $100 an hour or whatever, or pay me monthly. It's no. My transformation is 6 months. It's going to take you 6 months to reach this transformation. And for the 6-month transformation, it's going to be 10K. It's going to be 7K. It's going to be 8K. It's going to be high ticket. Okay? Cool. So, hope that makes sense. I hope this this is one of the biggest things that you have to realize, especially when you're kind of conceptualizing your offer, is your transformation. Okay? Because this is what your offer is. Okay? Cool. Next. Okay. So, focus on tangible value and real growth. Okay? So, too many coaches choose what problems to solve and how to solve them based on what others are doing. This ends up ruining the process of creating a unique, high-value, unique offer from the start, because they start to build with a preconceived idea of what their offer should look like. Okay? Like I said before, average coach makes $2,000 per month. Okay? 95% of coaches are struggling. It's a very difficult market to be in. So why copy them? Okay? Instead, innovate. I know this sounds cliche. Oh, innovate, do something new. But you have to do something new. You have to do something unique. Okay? You have to stop looking at others. Okay? Looking at others will only get you to the same position that other people are in. Okay? You have to look at data. Okay? Data from things that are giving you clarity on hurdles and pain, obstacles, their current state, their desired state. These are things that you should be focused on. Once you have this and you have like validation of this, then it becomes a lot easier to achieve growth. You have service market fit. Once you have service market fit, your marketing efforts become so much more leveraged. You're working on you're not working on a 1-to-1 leverage ratio, input to output ratio. You're working on like a 1 to 100 or whatever leverage ratio. Okay? So trust your own expertise and problem solving ability to build out a complete solution. Focus on client success and build a program that makes it unreasonable for clients to not succeed. This is one thing that I focus on a lot in my own business and my own service and partnership that I do within my company. Okay? Each solution you create should deliver clear, tangible outcomes clients can undeniably see and feel. Okay? Example, fat loss or notable strength gains. Okay? Not vague idea like mindset shifts. Okay? With every solution, your prospects must feel like they are buying value at a massive discount. Okay? People feel like when someone buys something, usually they want to get more value out of it than they're paying for it. That's just kind of like how our brains work. Okay? We're always looking for a deal in a sense, like subconsciously. Okay? So we want them to feel like, oh my God, I'm getting so much here. I'm getting a lot of value in return for the value that I'm giving you in form of cash. Everything is business is a value transfer. I'm giving you cash and you're giving me value in another form back. Okay? So to get to that point, you need to keep asking yourself one question. How can I make it completely unreasonable for my clients to not achieve what I'm promising them? Okay? How do I make it unreasonable? Okay? Then stack value. Add more solutions to your mechanism. Reduce the time it takes to get results. Improve your onboarding experience. Set expectations better. Shorten the time it takes clients to see a return, etc. If you add these to your offer, it is just making your offer more valuable. You're giving them more value in return. When people get more value in return, they're going to be happier. They're going to probably find it unreasonable to not see any sort of results. Okay? And all this is the value equation. Okay? The value equation, pretty much from Alex Hormozi, is we are giving them the most amount of value in return. Okay? We are giving them value. Okay? This is just I'm trying to start my thesis of this entire sort of presentation is I'm trying to break it down for you from a very base level. When you go to science class, you're not learning high level things, funnel building. If you can focus on the fundamentals, and if you can focus on genuinely what makes an offer good, okay, from a base level, then that is 80% of your leverage right there. Funnel building, very small nuance. Should I do this funnel? Should I do that funnel? Should I do low ticket this? These are these are like a cherry on top of a sundae. Okay? You have to have your sundae first. You have to have your entire base foundation of your house before you go and look at the roof. Okay? So when your offer is built to address every obstacle along the way and solve in the most effective manner, clients will stay longer, pay more, and actually get results because it's impossible to not win. And also, they will be committed to your process. Very important. When you're giving them more value and you're charging more, they're seeing the value. They're paying more. That means they're more emotionally invested in your process. Therefore, they're going to follow through with your process. Okay, and that's kind of what we're going to get into now of pricing based on value for your offer. Okay, because what we did right here is we're focusing on a unreasonable solution, solving for every single gap in their entire scope of things. Maybe the things that they don't even know exist until they actually start the process. Okay, and that's making it unreasonable to not see success. And then now, how do we price based on that information? Okay, so we're going to jump into number 4 right here. Okay, so pricing based on value. How does this kind of work in a sense? Okay, so your job is as a service provider isn't to provide a service, but a transformation. We've already kind of gone over this. So therefore, it is up to you to determine the duration that the transformation will take. So some of my coaches, maybe they have a higher level solution that may take a longer amount of time. It's like a massive, like you have to lose 50 pounds, or you're putting on X amount of muscle, or you're doing sort of this for example, menopausal women. Some of my clients will target menopausal women, and there may be some hormone therapy involved in that as well. Okay, so most people charge $1,000 a month for a meal plan, coaching, etc., and are surprised when after the first month people cancel because they don't see a clear path to their transformation. And people will not spend $1,000. People will rather spend $10K once than spend $1,000 a month. Okay, a lot of people, because they see the value now, they'll just go and spend 10K because they see the value for the one transformation. Okay, you are pretty much taking your transformation and you're productizing it into a one-time payment of a high ticket. Okay, and people want to buy, they don't want to rent. Okay, and when people are spending $1,000 a month, even less, $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever, they are renting a system from you. Okay, if your program has no defined endpoint, it creates uncertainty. This is where time delay perception kicks in, when there's no clear timeline and there's no clear path to outcome. Okay, so you have to have a clear endpoint, and that transformation should be specifically your offer is pretty much that product to reach that transformation, that mechanism to reach that transformation. Okay, so your program should have a clearly defined timeline and a specific end outcome. A well-structured offer should have a defined duration and a specific transformation. That's what gives clients confidence that success is not just possible, that it's predictable. Okay, and with time delay perception, what this is when people are paying $1,000 a month and they are then going into a program, and the program is perhaps painful because it's fitness. I can't eat gummy bears anymore. I can't eat cookies. I have to, actually do work. The time feels slower. The time feels more painful, excruciating. And then they're like, oh, I got to pay money for this pain for $1,000 a month. Okay. Now they start to question, oh, should I really follow through with the payments? Should I really do that? Okay. If you got them up front, payment up front, hey, and set the proper expectations, and they're buying your process, then that will allow you to actually allow people to follow through with those as well, because there's also emotional commitment. Okay. So the reason people churn is because they aren't getting the result. You have to keep in mind the two variables to achieving the outcome are activities and timeline. Okay. One, activities is a workout plan, won't get your prospect to lose 30 pounds if all they eat is fast food. Okay. And then the timeline is a perfect workout and meal plan won't get X prospects to lose 30 pounds within a day. Okay. So you have to map out both the activities and the time required to achieve each of these outcomes. Okay. So how do you actually determine the pricing behind this? Okay. So to determine the cost of buying each important component separately to calculate the value of the entire system as a whole. So you want to kind of think about it like starting point, end goal to your transformation, to your specific market, what that looks like. Okay. And you can actually map out each of the individual segments of, okay, what is the cost of each of these? And then add them up in a sense, just to make it pretty simple. So then you can see, okay, this is how much my transformation will be. Okay, you can estimate the cost of each component individually, then calculate the total cost of bridging the entire gap over the full duration of the transformation to determine your pricing. I would highly recommend you to charge a lot, like take the average coach that is charging, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500 for like a couple months. And I want you to just 10x it. That will give you a good place to start from. And then once you 10x it in your mind, then you can start to now think, how do I reverse engineer my value so that I'm giving them $15,000 worth of value or $10,000 worth of value for that transformation? Because there's no point in going after a transformation that won't net you more money or as much money as you can. Like, what's the point of doing business if our goal is not to make the most amount of possible money? What is our goal? Okay, our goal is to make cash. Okay, so rather than $1,500 a month or whatever, if you know the process and outcome will take 5 months, do 1.5K times 5 and get that 7.5K upfront. You can then charge this as an upfront payment. Okay, this means you get more revenue upfront. That's better, just money for you to reinvest in marketing and obviously just living your life, queen. Okay, and now because you're charging up front, that actually acts as a funnel for high quality committed customers. The people who are going to pay that are going to be committed. They're going to view you as 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 kind of like a god. They're gonna like, I'm so committed to this, I need this to work. Okay. That also results in no churn during your initial period because people are paying up front. Okay. There's less churn after initial period due to high commitment. They've gotten the results with the process because they're so committed. Okay. And because they're high quality and committed, you're going to get better results. Okay. The clients are going to be more committed. They're going to follow through with the process. Okay. And you're also going to look like you're winning because they're getting better results. Okay. That's going to lead to better case studies. And when you have better case studies, easier acquisition, more clients, etc. Okay. So all of this really starts with a high upfront price. If you don't have a high upfront price, then you won't have commitment. And when you don't have commitment, you won't have follow through. When you don't have follow through, it's hard to remarket that, and you're making less money. So it's like a lose. You're just losing when you're charging less. Okay? And you're just simply doing this on a value scale. Okay? You're giving them actually more value by charging more upfront. Okay? And you should never be underpricing yourself. The price should always reflect the value of the outcome, as the price is a communicator of value itself. When you go to a store, there's actually a tactic that a lot of people will do, where if someone goes to a store and says, or a restaurant and says, I want the most expensive wine, and they drink that wine, their brain is associating that $1,000 wine with $1,000 worth of taste and enjoyment. So their brain is actually going to trick them to believing that that wine is very, very good, even if it's a bad wine. Okay? And there's this example that actually Hormozi has, and there was this scientific experiment that was done where they gave people cheap wine and like one cheap wine and one like two wine of the exact same pretty much quality, two cheap wines, but they told one of the people that one of the wines was $1,000 and the other one was like $2, and everyone said the $1,000 wine was way better. Okay, so it comes down to as well perceived value, because your price is a representation of what they're getting, and customers subconsciously feel that. Okay, cheap prices make people see your service as low value and subconsciously associate it with a lower chance of achieving their desired outcome. Okay, so when there's cheap prices, you're being viewed as a cheap service. And because of that cheap service, there's a lower perceived likelihood of achievement because they're not viewing it. So there's so many flywheels here. There's perceived value flywheels. There's actually the pricing flywheels, like the absolute value flywheels. Okay, because the way people perceive something is often the way that people are going to follow through with it. That's going to lead to lower commitment, higher churn, worse results. Then now you can't reinvest back in your company to afford superstar talent, to get better marketing systems, to get better mentors, etc. Okay, so we're not here to be like everyone else and offer the typical meal plan, check-in plan, workout packages. We're here to be the highest quality option available. That is the entire thesis of this video. Be the highest quality option available. Be the Ferrari. Be the one where it's like, okay, I have $1 million I want to spend on a car. I want to get the best possible option so that I can experience confidence, joy, women, whatever it is that you get with a supercar. The experience of wind blowing on my hair when I'm driving across Europe, whatever it is. Okay? So you want to make sure that you are being this high quality solution. Okay? When you are, like so many people, they think that I'm going to get by just charging low value, charging not enough money. You should not take people on for low money, even if they offer to take you on for low money. Okay? I have people who say, oh, can we do this? It's like, if their commitment is skewed from the jump, then they're not going to move forward. Like they're not going to move forward with the actual back-end process as well. Okay? So let's move on. So in terms of retention, okay, how do you retain people long-term? Okay, because this is a very important thing as well. How do you downsell to an upsell retention? So this is something called downselling the upsell. So during the initial period, you need to build and release systems in their process and journey. So this is what we went through in terms of failure mechanisms, mapping everything out so that people will have all of the potential failures already mapped out there so that it's impossible to not see results. This is what we already went through. After the upfront period ends, so your initial 5 months, okay, you will offer these systems at a lower priced recurring rate. Okay. These systems will provide ongoing value and address the new problems that will arise as your clients continue their journey after. This shifts you out of the oversaturated service provider lane and into an infrastructure creation. Okay. Using this model, you're not doing the work forever. You build it once, release it, and let it run. So instead of just going in and saying, hey, I'm going to charge you $200 a month off the jump when they don't know who you are, they're going to churn. You have to charge the max up front. After their period ends, then you can then go and allow them to be MRR. This is what Alex Hormozi did with Gym Launch, that he made a ton of money with. He had over 1,000 gyms paying him $3,200 per month on MRR after paying the $16K upfront to initially join Gym Launch. Crazy. Okay. And his churn rate on that 3.2K for 1,000 gyms was less than 1%. And this is what we're going to go through right here. Okay. So highly profitable front-end build and release offer, right? So you're solving for the how, solving for the what and the who. Okay. So bringing clients to their desired state. Okay. And then once you get them to their desired state in that time frame, in that initial transformation, there still has to be a new transformation for you to sell. Okay. This can be data. This can be insights. This can be software to help with things. This could be systems. This could be another community as well. Continued access to maybe a community that you've already given them for a reduced rate. Okay. As long as you're continually providing more value through the systems, you'll be able to retain them on this lower MRR for a significant amount of time. I've had so many people who, even myself, have come in, paid a lot of money up front, then after say, okay, it's only $1,000 a month moving forward. Oh, okay, that's chill. You're getting access to this, this, and this. We're still going to bring you to this transformation, but you're still going to get access to data, for example, for advertising. You're still going to get access to insights that I get within my clients, across my different clients, across marketing, across market selection, across market dynamics, etc. Okay. And what happens in terms of value and price? Okay, there's something called a price to value discrepancy. Okay, so the value and the price are usually like they're in correlation with each other. Okay, and the moment the value dips below the price, not literally, but in their mind, is when people will stop buying or when existing customers cancel or refund. This is when people feel like they're paying more to get something that they can get for less, in a sense. Okay? But this is not literal. This is in their minds. This is not like, oh, well, the other 100 fitness coaches I talk to are offering it for this much. No. This is in their mind of how they feel regarding your transformation that you're now offering them. Okay? And over time, what happens a lot of the time is when you're doing that MRR, people will eventually feel, okay, I'm getting the same value, I'm not getting anything new, therefore I'm going to churn. So you always have to be thinking of the next transformation after your initial upfront period. Okay? So if properly executed, you'll retain clients on the lower MRR for months or even years and end up making more with the back-end automated systems than you did from the initial upfront payment. So once you have these people on this back-end paying, this is not even like a crazy retainer. Once you have people on this retainer, they're committed. They've already paid the amount of money up front. They've probably already seen results from that upfront period. And then now, after their period is over, you're now saying, okay, it's this much per month for, however many months moving forward. You can even lock them in for a year. That's what Alex Hormozi did. Then they're not going to churn. Okay. And as a success case for this, Hormozi successfully implemented the same model within Gym Launch by offering ongoing access to their latest insights for a monthly fee after the initial higher ticket program, which was extremely high ticket, 16K. Okay. Cool. It was actually 1K a week for 16 weeks. That's how much his program was. So you get billed a K a week. Interesting. So what he did with Gym Launch, for gyms, of course, is he took gyms, okay, that were not doing the best or whatever, and that wanted to become a succeeding gym making 6 figures a month. Okay. He gave them the initial high ticket program, which was at 1K per week for 16 weeks. Okay. And then he brought them to a succeeding gym. He gave them the infrastructure, the software, the processes, the SOPs, the offer, the markets selection, appointment setters, sales systems, funnels, all that sort of stuff. Got them to a point where they were good, helped them run ads, etc. And once they were doing good, he said, okay, you're now making this much money. I brought you to this point. Now to get you to the next point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now charge you 3.2K a month, and I'm going to give you insights into ads. So that was called Jim Lords. And Jim Lords was the higher, like his ascension program pretty much for this. And Jim Lords was access to insights pretty much. He would just have a community where it would be all of the gym owners and Jim Lords, and they would share access on what the best ads are at the time, the best funnels, the best content strategies, insights into things that can make more money, knowledge, wisdom, etc., that these gyms can apply to make them more money. And when they did, they still got so much value in return from their investment of 3.2K a month. Okay. So implementing this back-end pricing model allows you to maximize customer LTV while effectively adding zero workload. So this back-end, you may think, oh, okay, it's a lot of work, etc. You're giving them insights, you're giving them data, you're giving them something that will still help them reach the next level. Okay. And this is not something that is like literal, like something, what I mean literal, like a laborious activity that you're doing or labor. This could be something as simple as just access to an asset, like a community or a software or a system, or things that, or access to ads, which if 100 people have access to it, okay, I'm just speaking in the agency sense, if 100 people have access to it, okay, you're only doing it for one person and 100 people are getting access. That's leverage, okay? So after implementing everything we covered thus far, prospects in my personal prospects went from complaining about $1,500 a month to paying 16 to 15K packages up front. Okay, here are some client results of mine. Okay, I think I had $61,000. Okay, 61K this month, 21 G's this month, different prospects. I sold 9K yesterday and today, so 18K in 2 days. Okay, let's go. 2K Suzanne, 2K Laura, 3K Rob. Let's go. Okay, 2K yesterday, 6K today. Scary. Do you want to be scared with how much money you're making? Do you want to look at your Stripe or your payment processor and be like, wow, this is scary? Okay, then you need a leveraged offer. Okay, 2K yesterday, 6K today, 61K this month. Okay, so, and these prospects right here are charging a lot of money up front. Okay, so like 6K from one person, Laura, 2K, 2K, 3K. Okay, and a lot of people, just total transparency, when you say, hey, my process is 10K for 6 months, a lot of people won't pay 10K for 6 months, like because they don't have 10K. But then you could split that up now in 3 installments and lock them in for that. So there's still, the valuation of the contract is still 10K. And that's what some of my clients do as well. And there's also options like buy now, pay later options that allow you to have the money up front as well, that I implement with my clients as well. So pretty interesting stuff. Okay. So from $1,500 a month to 10K upfront offer, how did I do this? So number one, no one could easily replicate my offer. Okay. If someone can't do the same actions as you, then you really don't have competition. This is a big thing. If no one can replicate your offer, you are now one of one in a market. Okay? This allows you to stop being a commodity where you have to charge based on price because you're offering the same solution as everyone else. Okay? And then now, because you're in your one of one market and you're not a commodity, you can price however largely you want to charge. Like look at Birkin, the Birkin bags or like the LV bags. It costs those like Louis Vuitton, what, $300 to make a bag that they sell for $5,000? How are they able to do that? Okay, because they're not a commodity. Because no one is replicating the LV brand. They can charge that. They can charge however much they want to charge because they know they are in their kind of own market. No one's buying an LV bag or a designer bag because they're getting it, this one's $500 cheaper. No, it doesn't work like that. People are going to spend more money because they want that brand or they want that transformation that that bag delivers. And that allows you to have insane profit margins, big profit margins. A lot of you guys are working with very bad margins. Okay. This allows you to afford yourself the most and best business talent, hiring great talent, having great systems, having, whatever you want to invest back in your company, you're allowed, you can do this now. You have the leverage to do this. Okay. And then because you have better talent, better, etc., when you have more people working with you, now you have better insights because there's more people in your organization who are gaining insights that can then be recycled to making you more money, better client results, more case studies, etc. And then that just results in you having a higher closing rate. Okay, a lot of you guys don't have a good offer, you're a commodity, and you're wondering why your closing rate is so bad. And you guys are saying, oh, I just have to learn how to deal with it. I want to think about it objection. Do you really think you learning how to deal with an I think about it objection is going to make you $100,000 a month? Like, think about this for a second. Do you really think learning how to deal with I want to speak to my wife is going to make you $100,000 a month? Do you really think leverage comes down to what words you say on a sales call? If that's where you're at in your business and you're focused on, because I was there myself, I just have to learn with because I'm dealing with all these objections. All these people are all tire kickers on the call. They don't value me. They don't want to work with me. They're just like here to look. So therefore I have to learn all these sales techniques. It's like, no. People before the call should be very much sold. Sales is such a small portion of this, and like the actual sales call is such a small portion of this entire thing. Okay. So this is pretty much how I went and made that transformation myself. Okay. So how do we structure our fulfillment so it's scalable? Because this also arises as well. Another problem. A lot of you guys are working for your clients. Okay. They're not your clients. They're your employees now. Okay. So now that we have a properly structured offer, we need a properly structured way to scale it. Most coaches never think about the scalability of their processes. However, if we aren't continually increasing our leverage as we scale, it's only a matter of time until we hit another ceiling of how many people you can take on. Okay? And let's say you can only take on X amount of people that are paying you X amount of dollars, then now your income is capped. If the bucket can only fit 300 milliliters of water, you can't put 400 milliliters in there. So you're better off going and increasing your bucket than coming back and then focusing on marketing. Okay? The following section, what I'm going to talk about here is how we cover and how we can structure fulfillment as a whole so that we have enough leverage to continually scale. Okay, so we're going to jump into fulfillment here because fulfillment and offer go hand in hand. Your offer is a reflection of your fulfillment. When there is too much of a disconnect between what your actual fulfillment is and what your offer is, then now you're a scammer. Actually, now you're a scammer. Your goal in business should be to clearly show what your back end is in a systematic way so that people can see it and they see the value there and they see the transformation there. And then they can go and buy your solution. Okay? So many of you guys are like promising your offer is so different than actually what you're providing. And that's when you actually can really much so fall into the, I was not expecting this. Whatever, refund, charge back this, bad reputation. Now you're a scammer. Okay? So let's jump into how to actually get leveraged in your fulfillment because this is highly important. It's also kind of boring, but like it's very important. It's very important because I've been to the point where several times where I've done something and I've worked and got a lot of clients, but then, oh crap, now I'm capped. Now I can't take more people on. Now my income's stuck. Okay? So minimizing chaos at all costs. So everyone knows the simple quote, simple scales, complex fails. Okay? But most people have no idea what that actually means in practice. In reality, it isn't about avoiding complexity, but the chaos that comes from introducing new processes, new tools, new products, etc., without the proper structure. You want to avoid introducing new things and reduce the frequency at which you introduce new processes at all costs. Most operational breakdowns don't come from the complexity of what you do. They come from undocumented steps, inconsistent delivery, and introducing too many new moving parts too quickly. The less we're able to predict the future, the less control we have over it. The more we're able to predict the future, the more control we have over the future. So you should always document every SOP, process, and mechanism, as one missing SOP will eventually, SOP is a standard operating procedure, so like how you fulfill something or how you do something, will eventually lead to more missing SOPs, more chaos, and more problems later down the road. Okay? Never launch a new procedure before the whole workflow is documented, and never start with more than one new procedure / initiative per month. Okay? Because a lot of you guys, I've seen a lot of coaches as well, where they go and then they try to do so many different things, add so many things in their business, add so many things into their offer, where now it's now way too complex. And there's a balance between value, which is you providing good quality solutions, and having all of these steps that we went through before, the failure mechanisms, and then there being potentially undocumented too much where people are actually overwhelmed. Okay? So you must also remember that if you want to improve your operations, it won't come from increasing the volume of processes. It will only come from fully dialing each process in. Okay? Great mechanisms in one offer will always be, one great mechanism in one offer will always be 10 mediocre ones bundled up. Okay, please remember this. Always do it better before you do it more. Okay? Alex Hormozi says this as well. Better, more, better, new. Okay? So you want to do it better before you do something new. Okay? So when you're actually running this offer, a lot of you guys are watching this and maybe you're actually running your offer right now and you're thinking of implementing new things, you can just go and just create a new offer with all of the failure mechanisms and all of the mechanisms that you went and just launch it as totally brand new. But if you're stacking it onto your current offer, you have to introduce on a pace. Okay? So most of the new mechanisms you'll introduce won't be perfect or even worth keeping, which is perfectly okay. However, what's not okay is letting these broken systems left unchecked. One flawed mechanism left alone creates bottlenecks, confusions, and eventually breaks everything around it. For example, if you roll out a new client onboarding sequence that looks super good on paper, okay, but however, after a week, clients will still ask basic questions. They won't have the proper expectations. They'll skip steps, etc. During the 7 days, there will be indicators on whether the system is or isn't doing its job. Based on the feedback you shift and you rebase, you rebuild, and document the updated version. Most important part is that everything needs to be reviewed and tracked. Okay, leaving things unchecked creates confusion, wrong decisions get made, and you end up making the wrong moves because you're essentially playing chess without knowing what the board looks like. This is a big thing. I've done this before several times. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a new sort of onboarding system in my company. I've actually done onboarding before where I'm going to do this new complex funnel. Looks good on paper, saves me time. And then down the line, I have people who aren't as committed. I have people who are not knowing certain steps, not actually taking that onboarding seriously. And it's like, okay, I have to go back to the old way I was doing it. And imagine doing that across several different mechanisms. So now it can become a little bit complex. But there's also freedom when you're starting from scratch. You can try all of these without risking losing revenue. Okay, so you need feedback on this. You need to know what's working and what isn't and actually track this. Data is important. So with every new introduced system, you should have a week-long review cycle. Treat it like it's stress testing a bridge. You don't wait for it to collapse. You load it early and look for cracks. Okay, that rhymes. Okay, so how do you actually gain maximum fulfillment leverage? So our goal isn't to become trillionaires and die with money without actually living life. The only reason why money is useful in the first place is because it allows us to fully experience our time on this planet with as little limitations as possible. So, however, since our time on this planet is extremely limited, every second we spend building a new mechanism must bring us infinite returns even when we stop creating them. Okay? So think about it like this. When you create something that is so valuable, ask yourself, is this thing valuable enough so that people will consume it for the next 100 years? Leonardo da Vinci, when he was creating his famous artworks, several artworks. Okay. People still look at that art today and say, wow, this is so amazing. They still know who he is. His information is still consumed. Hundreds of years later, that was the Renaissance age. Okay. So a good rule of thumb is that if you can't see yourself doing the activities you currently are in 7 years' time, you need to find a way of stop doing them now. So for example, a one-on-one call with you to help you structure your operations versus sitting down and creating this document and media asset. Okay. The first option turns one input into one output, so helping people one-to-one. Okay. Second option provides infinite outputs from the first initial input of creating this document and video. Okay. There is no limit on how many people can watch this video and get educated. Okay. The biggest companies were only able to scale where they are today because of how much leverage they gained in their operations and fulfillment. If you can't, so all a company is getting clients and fulfilling clients. That's basically what a company does. You get clients and you help them achieve a transformation. And if either of these slips, then you don't have a business anymore. And a lot of you guys think, oh, operations is so easy. Okay. If I gave you 100 clients tomorrow, would you be able to fulfill? No. Okay. So now you can't make 100K a month. Now the first portion of that doesn't work. Okay. So there's 4 pretty much key levers you can implement into your fulfillment. Okay. These are certain forms of leverage that you need to implement if you actually need and are looking for scale and leverage. So the first is labor leverage. Okay. Even though labor is the least effective form of leverage, large organizations have most employees because they also focus on having the smartest employees. So this is very important. A good team will help you avoid so many mistakes. I have a great team. Okay. It has allowed me to gain so much leverage and get ahead of so many other people. How smart your team is will directly dictate the level of leverage you can access with it. Hiring cheap talent means you're saving money at the cost of gaining leverage. Okay. When you hire someone and they're cheap, okay, or let's say you hire someone and you don't even trust them, okay, then you actually can reflect that back on yourself and your own decision-making process. So you actually have to trust your employees, allow them to do the work, allow them to follow through with activities because your selection process should have been good enough. Okay. I'd rather have no money and a superstar team than a lot of money with average talent. Okay. The insights of your team will get you so much farther. The knowledge your team has is extremely important. The second level of leverage is capital. Capital leverage simply means leveraging money to make more money. Using capital leverage is the more money you have, the more money you can access. So this is investing this money into certain things. And capital you can buy labor with capital. You can buy media and code with capital. So capital is a very fundamental thing that you don't need, but it's like adding a multiplier to things. Okay. And then media and code leverage. Media and code leverage is anything such as videos, software, AI, SOPs, etc. This is when really good leverage comes in. So this is called permissionless leverage. Okay. This is leverage that can work for you 24/7. This is leverage that can be consumed millions, billions, trillions of times. Okay. This is for example, with labor, a person has to do it themselves. With AI or videos or softwares or media, these are things that can be done without the permission, for example, of someone actually being there and following through with that activity. Okay. So media and code fulfillment are the highest forms of leverage for 2 major reasons. Okay. Number 1, there's no marginal cost of replication. You gain the ability to create assets once and distribute them at an unlimited number of times with no time or financial cost of replication. For that reason, it becomes extremely scalable very easily. I can distribute this YouTube video thousands of times without having to spend any time or money on creating it ever again. Years ago, to give the same presentation, my best option would have been to go to a lecture hall or an auditorium and talk to a few hundred people. Go make a presentation. Okay? But with a YouTube video or a piece of asset that you give to your clients, that's something you can create once, it can be distributed and save you hours of time. And you can also use this to get clients as well. This is why media and code are very good for acquiring clients. Broke people do the wrong, so Taylor Welch, broke people do the wrong things, rich people do the right things, and wealthy people own the right things. Okay? The newest fortunes are being made with this type of leverage because of how effective it is at scale. If you look at Joe Rogan, he is the master of media. It's the biggest podcast in the world. Every J.R. Reid podcast episode generates hundreds of thousands, even long after posting it, from the one initial effort of producing. Okay? Hundreds of thousands of views, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Joe Rogan is a billionaire. Okay? So that, if you go to his oldest video, you can still watch it. And you don't need permission to watch it. You don't need to go, hey, can I? It's there. It's media. It's very leveraged. Okay? And you need to start thinking about how you can implement this, especially media, and even with the implementation of AI into your business to help with scale. But again, this is only something that happens at scale. And you need to start thinking of scale when you're starting out, because if you can't fulfill on $100,000 worth of clients, then there's no point in even trying to market yourself to $100,000 a month, because you're not going to be able to fulfill on that $100,000. Okay? So number two, so when I say permissionless, that this is permissionless leverage, what does this mean? So with labor leverage, someone must decide to follow you. Okay? With capital leverage, someone must decide to give you money to leverage, or yourself give you money to leverage. However, media and code, however, are great equalizers of leverage. Anyone can create YouTube videos, podcasts, etc., without needing any initial capital or a team behind them to do so. They are permissionless, meaning they allow you to multiply your efforts without needing anyone else's permission to use them. They allow you to have so many people view an asset and gain leverage from that asset at massive scale. So Naval Ravikant says, code and media are permissionless leverage. They're the leverage behind the newly rich. You can create software and media that works for you while you sleep. There's this quote, I think it's a Warren Buffett quote. If you can't figure out ways to make money while you sleep, you'll forever be poor. Okay, you will not be rich. So this is one of the ways where you can make money while you sleep through media and code. Okay. However, the magic really happens when you combine all forms of leverage. Combining all forms of leverage means taking just the minimum but highest output labor, combining it with capital for marketing, advertising, and scaling, then adding in lots of code and media, especially in this space. I'm just going to say media. Code would be like more for software, but for media, such as podcasts or content, to get yourself out there and advertise, get impressions, get people to view you. Okay? So labor plus capital plus lots of media is maximum leverage. If you can do the same and utilize all forms of leverage correctly, you'll scale incredibly quickly. Okay? You need lots of media out there. You need a good team. Okay? And capital will obviously come with those, but if you have capital to invest into your business, then that will just multiply everything. Okay? Cool. So that's just kind of a little lesson on forms of leverage, because a lot of people are doing things themselves. They're doing kind of the fulfillment themselves. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but we're going to kind of get into that as well on, should you be doing the things yourself? Should you be offering to these people like a service that you do for them? Should you be doing it yourself? Should you be kind of doing it together? Should it be a course that you give these people? You know, what is the best fulfillment model? Because we want people to have success with the program, but we also want to spend the least amount of time we can fulfilling these people, so then we can do the things we actually want to do. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about how to actually pretty much just like deciding your fulfillment model. Okay, so we want to get as close to having zero marginal cost for applications so that we're able to take on the highest number of clients possible without needing to proportionally scale the operations behind it. If you're stuck needing more people as you get more clients, you need to rethink your deliverables and figure out how you can gain more leverage. Okay, so there's three different sort of forms of an offer and fulfilling. There is a done for you offer where you are physically doing the things for them. This will be like an in-person service or a one-to-one service, or you're doing the actual workouts with them. This is like in-person personal training in fitness. There's a done with you. where you do some work, they do some work. Okay. Maybe like productized consulting, maybe some one-to-one, as well as like you're going to do some on your own. And then there's do it yourself, where you're just giving them media and code. You're just saying, hey, here's an online course. Just go do it. Don't talk to me. Okay. These are the three. However, since we care about being the best solution for our clients and getting them results, we will need to balance leverage and results, of course. Okay. You can be leveraged and not get your clients results, but you won't be in business in a few years. Okay. You can get results, but not be leveraged. You won't be able to help a number of people or scale up your own business effectively, which is exactly why the way we follow our fulfillment isn't coaching or consulting alone. It's balancing these. Okay. So let's jump into this. So done for you, done with you, do it yourself. What is this balance? What should this balance be? Okay. So number one, done for you. So do DFY, done for you. Okay. This portion should be reserved for the highest impact results producing activities. Okay. The things that you are doing for them should have the biggest amount of return on their success. Okay. This is going to be maybe like a program design, the actual custom nutrition and the custom training. These are the things that are going to be the most important for them. Okay. Maybe even accountability, hypothetically. So this will be potentially 20%. 60% will be done with you. So this will be weekly check-ins, maybe video reviews, habit coaching, daily support, whatever that sort of is. Okay. And then so this is like the less one tick below the most important or the highest impact activity on their success. And then the last will be do it yourself. So this will be like training execution, meal logging, lifestyle habits, reviews of certain things, communication, whatever. And these are the least important or the least impactful on helping them deliver that transformation. And you want to rank these and create your solution that bundles these together, because we're not doing one. A lot of course sellers are just like, hey, here's a course. Bye-bye. Okay. And there's a lot of people, hey, I'm going to do everything for you. Then now you're stuck in a trap working for your clients. Okay. So there's a balance between leverage and getting client results. And you want to understand that you can do whatever you want with your offer. There's no rule of I have to do this or I have to do that. You can create whatever offer you specifically want in terms of balance of these. And I recommend doing the highest impact activity for them because you obviously have that expertise. Okay? Cool. So next steps, list out the who you need for your offer based on your fulfillment models. List out the systems you'll need, hiring systems, lead gen systems, appointment setting systems, sales systems, etc. And start building your client journey and checkpoints. Okay? So what this looks like is this is an example of kind of our backend. Okay? So are we going to need certain, offer building, niche selection systems, image optimization, lead generation? These are just things that I implement with my company, with the partners we work with and the coaches we work with. Okay? Messaging, what these sort of systems kind of look like, operations, delegation, etc. Okay? Gaining insight from offer feedback. Okay? What do our flywheels look like when we're actually gaining our offers? Okay? So I'm just going to show you here. Let me pull this up. So what this looks like is you should pretty much understand that their present situation, their desired situation is what you're providing, okay? And then map out specifically each step. So for example, what I do is, okay, number one, onboarding. What does that first initial point of contact look like? So a prospect must believe that this is the best thing for them to scale and they pay the invoice. And the prospect must be educated on that process. They read and sign the agreement, they complete the onboarding form, they book a call, they get started on this, and they get expectations on what they're actually doing, the pain they're going to be going through, what onboarding is all about. I have a couple videos on onboarding. I would go watch those after this, okay? And then after, phase one, are we doing an offer for them? What does the niche look like? Okay, are we having to optimize their image in terms of social media? What does lead generation look like? Okay, in terms of asset building, education, our sales pipelines, are we having tracking systems in there as well where people will actually be able to do an input, but then have a proper way of tracking that? See if it's correct. Okay. Now, what do all of these systems look like? Okay. Map it all out so that you know what your client is going through on each specific step. Okay. Messaging, lead gen, asset and sales asset creation. Okay, what is the actual, how are we delivering certain things or getting clients, or what are our conversion mechanisms, etc. Okay, and then operations, onboarding, fulfillment, retention, etc. Okay, so these are things that you have to map out and you have to understand. Let me just come back here. When you're actually creating your overall fulfillment. So just map out the entire process. The same sort of mechanism that you're putting in your offer of all this value you're giving them, just map it out on a timeline. What that looks like, what work you're doing, what assets you're giving them, what assets you're not giving them, what they're going to have to do themselves, what you're going to have to do for them, etc. Okay? Who's doing the work? Is it a team member on your team that's doing the onboarding? Are you doing the onboarding? Okay? All of these things, okay, can be mapped out easily. Cool. And then next, gaining insights on your offer from feedback. Okay. So this is a very important step. So by tracking and monitoring your business and its processes, you will collect feedback. That feedback will give you access to unique insights only you have. Leveraging these insights is powerful because you're bringing something new and unheard of to the marketplace, giving you a competitive edge no one has. Okay. For example, Nate Belmar built Anime Shreds by collecting unconventional insights and turning them into his philosophy that stood out. Okay. So when you are doing your system and when you're getting clients and when you're going through the process of helping people or marketing or et cetera, you're going to come across, if you're tracking everything correctly, things that are unique that other people don't believe to be unique, or other people don't know to be true. Things that you know to be true that other people don't know to be true. And these are called unique insights. And when you have so many unique insights on how to help people better, on how to get people better in shape, on how to help people in accountability or whatever it is, you can then now implement this back in your offer. Nate Belmar did this with Anime Shreds. Okay. And he made a very unique solution. Okay. And why did his thing work? He's making like $200K a month on Skool. He's one of the biggest guys on Skool. Why did it work? Because new is always wanted in the marketplace. It's as simple as that. Everyone's always looking for the next solution, the next innovation, and the next big thing. Nate got rewarded for bringing new insights to the market, making $200K a month, while the coaches who stayed within the herd preaching, count calories or whatever, blended in with hundreds of thousands doing the same thing and got little to nothing in return. Okay? So you need this unconventional insights, and this is something that you're obviously going to get from feedback when you actually go through the process of your entire thing that you're actually doing for them, your entire offer. This is not something that you're going to get just from thinking. Okay? Cool. Let's move to the next step here. So with your content and with your assets, how do you shift beliefs? How does this kind of work? So once you're gathering feedback and you're actually going through this, you have to then build assets. This is just kind of a black pill, I want to say. You have to build assets. Okay? When you're doing your offer, it's not as simple as, hey, here's my offer with all this value, with all this stuff, buy it. It's not really going to work. Okay, you need to have assets that prove you know what you're talking about. And you build assets from unique insights, and you get unique insights by actually taking action. Okay? And when you have incredibly valuable assets, long form assets that are preaching things that of expertise and etc., you then can allow people to shift their beliefs. And once people shift their beliefs, they accredit that dopamine from their belief shift with you. Okay? So what happens here is you get users, you monetize, you solve their future problems, you turn the asset into part of someone's daily life, you create a habit of consumption, and then you share it. So you helping people can share and help you get more clients as well. So your job is to take the unique insights you gain, bring them into the marketplace, and educate people with them. You must create your own demand. It's as simple as that. You have to create your own demand. So the 9-figure flywheel, content flywheel, looks something like this. So there is obstacle awareness. So the more people who will experience the obstacle, okay, that's going to lead to solution awareness. The more people who will look for a solution. And then the more people who look for a solution will have some sort of solution implementation. The more people who will want the implementation, and then that will lead to a goal or a desire. More people with the same desire. Okay, so it starts with the desire, the obstacle, solution, and then the solution implementation. and you're using content to educate your audience and make them see the need for your offer. Content is insanely leveraged. It is a media asset. You have to produce content that educates, creates your own demand, and posts it on platforms where the assets distribute themselves. For example, even YouTube is very good. Okay, some social platforms are really good for this as well. The AGSA, so the asset distributes itself and educates thousands of people and prospects from the one initial effort of producing it. Prospects get educated, inbound leads with less objections, higher demand with the half sales required. Okay. So this is just kind of a cherry on top. I thought I wanted to include this because I believe that once you're actually doing your offer and you're getting insight from your offer, it's so much easier to just take that and go and talk about it rather than talking about some random nuanced thing. So go and do something, get feedback on it, and then once you have feedback, then you can go and talk about what you did. That's so much more impactful than just making something up. Okay? So in summary, you'll need, number one, a leveraged offer, solving for the entire gap. Okay? You're not solving for a portion, you're solving for the entire gap. That is going to allow you to price big. Okay? Because you're pricing not based on the duration of the process, you're charging based on the transformation. Okay? Now you're setting up an infrastructure. So an entire process where you're for 5 months, 6 months, a year, however long it is to achieve that transformation. Once they're finishing, you're downselling an upsell to get them on a back-end MRR where you're selling them a new transformation. Number two, a leverage fulfillment. So now that you have your offer and your model, and you obviously make sure you've mapped out all of your different things. Okay, I'm just gonna pause and show you guys for a second here. Just gonna pull this up. So this is something that we do within all of our clients as well. Okay, so failure scenarios. So are they undisciplined? Are they having a hard time sending check-ins? They can't restrain from food. Okay, even in the agency space, ad spend is too much. Clients can afford ads, can't afford ads. Okay, do they have a budget or a set expectation? Oh, lead quality is not good. Okay, do we have higher intent forums? Are there questions on the forums? Are we targeting by this? Are we targeting by this? Is the messaging good? Is the offer good? They have no organic presence. Okay, are we gonna build out an organic system for them? Okay, so each failure scenario, obviously in your overall offer, has to be mapped out in terms of the failure to solution. Okay, and then your leverage fulfillment model. So done for you, done with you, do it yourself. Okay, you're mapping out each of these stages for them, and you're figuring out what stages of those are done for you, done with you, do it yourself. And these are things that you're going to have to figure out along the way and figure out which ones are the most valuable that you can do for them. Things like, for example, I'm just speaking from the agency space, for an offer, for example, and helping with building offers out, that is something that you should help with them because that's based on insights. Okay? But for example, appointment setting, you're not going to go and call the leads for them. Okay, so these are things you have to balance. The number three, leverage educational funnels, so monetize unique insights through content assets. Okay, so these unique insights are very important because you're going to get these insights by doing this process. The more insights you have, the more you'll be able to talk about these insights. The more unique they are, the more people are going to be attracted to them because they're new. So you're gaining unique insights and unconventional truths through mechanism feedback. You're going to build an incredibly valuable asset using insights, and you're going to use the insights to create, your pretty much sales assets. Okay, your unique sales assets that you talk about, and you have to make sure that you're tracking as many unique insights as you can. Okay, so write out all of your unique insights that you currently have, and always be adding to this. Okay, so for example, an audience does not equal cash. This is an insight that I learned when I was starting my YouTube channel, or for some of my clients who basically have 1,000 followers making like 50K a month. So I realized very quickly, audience does not equal cash. That's a unique insight. A lot of people think, oh, I need 100,000 followers to make money online. No, it's not true. Okay. And then from there, okay, what is the insight? What is the insight or trend? What industry does it apply to? Who applied it? What was its impact? How was it applied? Was it worth the attention? And then how to leverage this insight. Can you make content about it? Can you get more clients from this insight? Can you use this to service your clients better? What would be the potential outcome of its application? Will it be gains, savings, qualitative, quantitative, etc.? And how hard is it to apply this insight? If this insight is incredibly difficult to apply in your business and it won't directly result in a gain, there's no point in using this insight. So these are all of these insights that you gain, you have to track and you have to understand its use case. Okay? Cool. So yeah, that is pretty much the first part of this in terms of leveraging your offer and your fulfillment, and then using that to gain insights. So the next step is we're going to be talking about gaining leverage through your offer, and how most people are doing it, and how this can be applied to you, because there's a lot of things and unique insights that I've learned, because it's very easy to just say, oh, you should do this, but is there proof behind it? Okay, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in the next step, and showing you guys how I've been applying this within my business, in my own business, in my clients' companies, to pretty much help them get ahead. All right, so now we're going to be pretty much diving into this, and kind of what this looks like. What's the downside of kind of doing something not aligned with what we've kind of talked about so far? Okay, so without any leverage, what kind of pretty much happens is, like I said, it's a lose-lose, okay? You're not making enough money, or you're not making good money, and you're limiting yourself from making money in the future, and your clients aren't seeing results. Okay, so when you're commoditized and your offer and service is commoditized, you're now working with obviously low price. What happens from there is, because you're commoditized and it's a low price, you have a low closing rate. People aren't going to be desperate and be desirable. It's kind of like almost like dating a girl. I want you to think of, like, or a boy if you're a girl watching this. Like, you want that person to be like so infatuated with just you, and not be like, oh my God, I'm going to go entertain all these other guys or all these other girls. Okay? It's like, think of one person that you want. I want you. It's like dating. Okay? It's like marriage, monogamy. We want them to be monogamous to our business. Okay? So you're going to have a low closing rate when you're commoditized. You're probably going to be solving one obstacle or maybe a couple of obstacles, not the entire transformation you're delivering. Therefore, your service is less valuable. Also makes it harder to close. You're also operating like everyone else. And because of your price being low, you're only attracting broke people who can afford low prices. Okay? When you're charging low and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting sales. It's like, great, you got sales, but you got sales from people who are bad people. It's like, take people on that, like, your price should almost be a funnel for people who are good, in a sense. Okay? If they can't afford it, that's fine. Go find someone who can. Okay? And because they're broke people who can't afford who can only afford the low prices, they're only there for the price. They're only there for the value because the price is so low, not for the actual solution. They're not committed. There's less money for you to work with. They're going to get bad results. You're going to have a hard time because you're going to be probably working harder for these clients compared to clients that pay you more. Therefore, what's going to happen, you're going to have less time in your business. You're going to have less time to conceptualize new ideas. You're going to be in a pretty tough state. You're going to be like kind of screwed in a sense. Okay? Because now, when you're in your business and you find yourself spending more time servicing clients than conceptualizing new markets, new offers, ways and methods to get to the next level, more revenue, whatever, now your business, I can guarantee your business will not grow. I can guarantee your business will not grow. It won't. I've had this before where servicing clients more than it takes me to conceptualize or think of new ideas. You have to allow there to be time for you to conceptualize new ideas, time for you to think, time for you to try new things. If you have no time on your plate to do that, you can't do that. Okay? And then leverage, it's pretty much the opposite, right? So you have a premium offer, you're solving every obstacle for the entire transformation, you're making it a no-brainer offer with obviously leverage fulfillment, removing you from actually doing a lot of the activities. Remember, you're still doing some of the activities, but not all of them. You're getting high quality committed customers because it's high ticket. You can afford now to spend money back on your business, test new things, try new markets, find new opportunities and vehicles to make more money. Okay. And you can also spend money, go get a villa, go to, I was just in, for example, I was just in Thailand. Okay. I did Thailand, Japan, and I was in Arizona for a month. Okay. I live in Canada, but I was able to take 2 months off. Well, I was still working, but 2 months and go explore. Okay. What do you think that does for insights? Meeting people who are above you. Okay. I met so many very interesting people. I actually signed a couple clients on this trip as well. These are things that are still important that you should still prioritize in a sense if you can. You can't do that if you're commoditized. I'm sorry. You're not taking your trip without stressing. Okay. Better results for customers, and you also look like you're winning. You have a higher retention rate. So it's just a win-win cycle. One small tweak that in your offer dictates the entire rest of the experience of yourself and your clients. Okay? So something has to change in order to scale. Okay? So scaling with minimal leverage is extremely difficult short-term and impossible long-term. If you want continual growth and evolution of the business, there needs to be continual growth and evolution of the processes that make up the business. You always have to be experimenting with new ways of leverage. Okay? If you are experiencing very marginal or minimal growth, okay, and you're working with a minimal with minimal leverage, meaning your input to output ratio is 1-to-1, okay, then no amount of work or no amount of laborious activities will get you there, because you can get there, but then you're still inputting inputs into a system that is at fault. Okay? But when you actually have leverage, then everything becomes a multiplier. Okay? So when you have no leverage, so for example, looking at the fulcrum, okay? If you're 1-to-1, one input, one output. Okay? But if you're actually 1-to 10, for example, okay, then everything becomes more leveraged, meaning all of your efforts get multiplied. So your fulfillment, your acquisition, your audience, your offer, your market, okay, all of the hours of work, the outreach, the money you spend implied into effort towards your system will result in you having, for example, $50,000 a month. Okay, this is a screenshot. If you are stuck, not able to scale, it's most likely due to lack of leverage. Every new level you want to scale requires you to access more leverage. Okay, so long-term, looking at leverage. If you are at a point where you are not making any money, or your income is pretty stagnant, face level, you probably are not. You're experiencing very low level of. You just probably have zero leverage. Okay, and with leverage, what happens is it's easier to 10x than 2x. This is a concept that I just recently learned. It's easier to make 10 times more than it is to make 2 times more. And what this means is reinvesting in more leverage. So when you're starting out, it's hard to get a lot of leverage because you don't have capital, you don't have status, you're trying things, you don't know how to make good content, whatever. And you're still finding yourself, in a sense, your business, your messaging, your offer, whatever. But as soon as you have validation on that, you have to quickly reinvest in more leverage. Quickly. Knowledge in terms of what offer to do, what markets to do, acquisition channels, your fulfillment, like everything. Okay. And as soon as you do that, it becomes exponential rather than linear. Okay. Cool. So to show you this, this is what I was talking about kind of before with Alex Hormozi with Gym Launch. He pretty much, I made a video on him. It's like a 45-minute video kind of breaking this down. But to give you guys an overview, he charged $16K for 16 weeks, so $1,000 a week. And he would pretty much give them the entire sort of offer. So what most of his competitors were doing was they were, gym owners not making that much money. That's their initial kind of situation. He would just, like most other agencies, would just say, hey, we'll get you leads. Like that's what they would do. And they would charge $1,000 to $2,000 a month. That's an agency rate. Okay. And he noticed that that's not solving the entire gap because, gyms, for example, maybe they don't have a good organic presence, Google presence, Google reviews, like appointment setters, sales systems, fulfillment systems, like all of there's so many other factors as well. Pricing, gym floor layout, referral systems, anti-churn systems, like so many things. And leads are just a fraction of that. And most of the competitors were just selling for that. So he came in and he said, okay, we're going to map everything out. We're going to give a full offer, help you with your offer, help you with lead gen, help you with appointments, help you with sales, help you with fulfillment, help you with all of everything. Okay. And we're going to sell this to you for $16,000 to get you to $100,000 a month in your gym. Okay. That was the transformation that he was selling. And because that offer was the most attractive offer in the marketplace, it was the most premium offer in the marketplace. If you were a gym owner, you knew about Gym Launch, but maybe you couldn't afford it. And you're like, oh, one day maybe I'll save up for it. All these gym owners were thinking this. And there's probably, I would say less because Hormozi is not involved in it, but it's still a big company. Okay. And because it's the most attractive offer in the marketplace, due to speed of results, due to so many other factors, value that he's giving, he's able to charge this much money, $16,000. Okay. And he was able to re-leverage this money back into more results. Okay. Better team, better, etc. And also more insights. Okay. This is a big thing. Like I talked about before, insights are very important that you can recycle into content, recycle back into certain insights for clients, helping clients scale more. Okay. And once he got gyms to a certain level, he implemented Gym Lords, okay, which was the retention community for $3.2K per month. And he was just saying, okay, you've already paid me $16K for 4 months. You're just going to pay me $3K a month. Okay. And I'm going to give you access to the same thing you have. Okay. You're going to get Gym Lords, and I'm going to give you access to all of the ads database, all of everything. And there was a commitment for 12 months for this. And he was getting insane margins for this. Like his margins on this were crazy, and he had less than 1% churn. Okay, so imagine getting, take this in. Imagine getting 3.2K a month multiplied by 1,000 gyms per month. It's like $3.2 million a month. Okay. And getting that every month with very little fulfillment and having a team to even help with that fulfillment. That is leverage right there. Okay. So I'm going to show you some case studies of some of my clients who we've implemented this with. So Paul Anthony with DreamBody, he went from 15K a month to roughly $64,000 per month. He collects over 150 grand in lifetime value and contract value, which is very crazy. This is just cash collected, but he collects contract value well into six figures, like 150, roughly 200K a month in contract value. So what we did with Paul was we changed his entire offer to a new segment and started getting traction from customers that were willing to pay $6,000 upfront for processes, for programs. Okay. And this is not just like, oh, meal plan. This is the entire sort of gap that we went through. He helps with absolutely everything in their client's journey. Okay. And he's charging $6K upfront for 3 months. For 3 months. Okay. And he had people, his market that he's in is menopausal women. And I know you may say, oh, he's not a menopausal woman. How is he able to sell that? Well, he has so much experience with it and so many insights that we were able to sell that and able to position him as a status figure within that. Okay. Also, Jason went from 7K a month to 20K a month. Jason already had leverage within his offer. We had to just shift his acquisition channel. Okay. So he already had a good offer. Jason already had a good offer. Once we launched his offer, increase his price a little bit as well. That's one of the biggest things that I do with my clients is first thing is I'm going to increase your price. Okay. And he started signing clients for $3,000 to $4,000 per, I think he was selling 4 months upfront as well, 3 to 4K. Okay. And he was getting that upfront. And then also Shane went from 20K to 55K a month. We changed his entire process and acquisition channel. And he really didn't have that good of an offer as well. We had to create a totally new offer for him, for Shane, and people were paying 5K per program as well. He was helping more the white collar sort of industry, so more like corporate parents per se, so like 40 to 60-year-old parents who have that corporate job, who are making, let's say, 6 figures a year and who have that money to spend. and are mostly looking to lose weight. Okay, that's what we positioned him as, and he just started printing from that very quickly. So, what's kind of the personal impact of getting leverage and working smart through my offer? So, I'm gonna kind of give you guys if you guys don't really know about my story and kind of how I was able to, get to the point where, I am right now doing, 50, 60, 70K a month, roughly. Obviously with entrepreneurship, if you guys are watching this, you have to understand that, like, let's say you make, I make, 50K a month. Sometimes, you make 70K a month. Sometimes you make 40K a month. Sometimes you make 60K a month. So that's average, roughly. But some clients or some people online, they say, oh, I make 100K a month, and maybe they hit it once. Okay. So that's just my average. So for me, I initially was in medical school. I was studying to become a doctor. Okay. So I was in London, Ontario. So London, Ontario is not a nice area in the earth. It's gray for like 9 months of the year. It's just like horrible. It's like the butthole of Canada. Okay. Everyone's broke there. Everyone's depressed. And I felt that, the environment kind of dictates you. I was quite depressed. I was broke. I felt like I was, just going to end up the same as all my classmates. I was sitting in lectures. I was actually, pretty much almost a doctor. I was in pre-med. And everyone in school hated what they did. And they were just sacrificing their youth and their 20s to work for the government. Because in Canada, it's not privatized like the US. You work for the government because it's, government healthcare. And you make 200 to 300K a year. Okay. Which is not crazy. Like, it's not a lot of money for the amount of sacrifice, for 10, 12 years of sacrifice. Okay. And I looked at that. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to make this sacrifice. I don't want to waste these precious years of my life chasing a number. Because all these kids, I would talk to them. I'd be like in lectures. One of the biggest things I did is when I went to lectures, I would try to make a keen effort to talk to people. Why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to go down this path? Why do you want to sacrifice 10 years of your life? Oh, well, I want to make 300K a year. It's like, what? And all of them, I didn't hear I heard maybe one or two kids would be like, yeah, well, I just really love helping people. Most kids, I just want to make money. Okay. And that was me. So because of my utter sadness, I decided to start a business. Okay. I needed a challenge. I decided to start fitness coaching people because of my past with training and working out. So I went from, kind of skinny, like 160 or so pounds, to being pretty jacked. And I did this in a pretty quick time, actually. So this is like a 3-year sort of transformation. I did a couple shows. I did 2 bodybuilding shows. My first one, I did really good. I placed pretty well in them, but I realized that was kind of a waste of time. That's a totally separate story. But I made that transformation. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to start a business, it should be something fitness related, right? So what I did is I was like, okay, I'm going to start posting content like what everyone says to do. I'm just going to go post my content on Instagram and just be a content guy and just do that. So I scaled my TikTok to a few thousand, and I had a few videos blow up. And my original thesis was just to post 1 time a day. I'm going to post 1 time a day on TikTok and I'm going to blow up. And I got some videos that blew up. I built my following, and I did this for a year straight. I know it may not look super, 4,000 followers, whatever, but I had a couple videos that blew up, and I thought I was doing good. And I forced myself to post. I continually posted and posted, tried to get some audience that would pay me money on programming or something like that. And I had zero idea. I just continually posted, especially when I didn't feel like it, because if I knew I had the discipline with the gym, it would directly translate into business. And this was my first mistake because that did not work. The discipline did not transfer. I was disciplined, but that vehicle I was doing it within was not leveraged. I vividly remember sitting at my desk. I was at my desk in my college dorm, and I was going through my phone. I was checking all my videos on TikTok. I was like, oh my God, these are so cool. 1 million views, 50,000 views, 100,000 views. I'm so cool. I've had all these posts that blew up. And then I'm like, okay, this makes me feel good. This makes my ego feel good. But what's the output from this input? How much money have I made from doing this in the past 6 months? And I realized I made $0 from doing this. Nothing. Like zero for a year. So then I'm like, okay, let's start to, let's get knowledgeable on actually what to do. So then I started investing in courses, learning about marketing, learning about etc. And I did that kind of while balancing school. So in the matter of 3 months, I invested over 10K into courses with money I pretty much did not have. And because of my concentration on my business, I was skipping classes and my grades were suffering. I was barely passing 50, 60% average in comparison to the previous year where I had like a 90% average in previous years. And I'd go to class and I'd be working on my business. And I remember actually sitting in a lab doing a biology experiment on some like rodents or something. And my lab peers were like, "Are you gonna do something?" Like they were just like, getting so pissed at me. I was like, "I'm locked in on my business." It's like going through courses, learning shit, reading shit, and there was no point in going to class because I was really consumed with learning. I would skip a lot of classes, etc. And I knew I just had to get more knowledge on actually what to do. And then that led me to signing my first client. So pretty much after taking courses and buying stuff online, I had a direction. I knew kind of what to do a little bit more. Started doing cold outreach, which is not super leveraged, but I did it. I did 1 hour a day of pure cold outreach. And after a couple months of doing this, I was able to sign my first client for $3,000. And let me tell you, that was the best feeling I've probably ever gotten in my life. Like that was like crack cocaine. Getting that piff, I was sitting in my lecture and I was chilling just in my lecture. And it was like a chemistry lecture. And my girlfriend was sitting next to me at the time. And I checked my phone. I get an email. $3,000 paid Stripe. Your first payment has come through on Stripe. I'm like, oh my God. I turn to my girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to be a billionaire. I'm about to be a billionaire. It's like, yeah, no, you're not. No, you're not. Reality check. Okay. After this win, I honestly I was locked into my business, but I kind of wasn't. I stopped working for a bit. I went, took the girlfriend for dinners. I actually went on a trip to Mexico. I spent all the money I made in like 2 weeks, which kind of sucked. But yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, I was still in school at the time, right? So I saw my first client in February of that year. Then the same year in May, I hit my first ever 7K month and things were starting to pick up. And my school ended in May of that year for summer break. And I told myself that with these 4 months, I'll see how much money I make and then decide if I want to return to school in the fall. So I was like, I have a safety net sort of thing. And for the first like 2 months of the summer, I didn't do anything. 3 months, I didn't do anything. The last month, I really locked in and I was able to hit $17,000 in 1 month. I processed like 10K through Stripe and a couple through, and in Canada, we have something called e-transfer, which is kind of like Zelle, I believe, like Cash App sort of thing. And I ended up buying a Rolex, dropping out of school. I was like, fuck this, I'm just going to go all in. And then, yeah, then I dropped out of school, but then I was still living in my college hometown in London. I had a house there because my college lease, my lease on my place was still there. So for the entire year, I put my head down and worked and researched, learned about leverage, got more mentors, kept refining my process, gaining more unique insights. And all of these unique insights that I've gotten through these trials and tribulations has led me to, making 50K in 30 days. A lot of my smart, not hard work paid off, and I was able to effortlessly shoot up in revenue. Okay. I stopped trying to work harder. I focused heavily on finding specific clients in high leverage markets to sell expensive programs and packages to. And I actually went against a lot of the conventional wisdom. Like a lot of these things that, oh, you got to do this to scale. Like I just disobeyed a lot of the time and really, like cliche as it sounds, think outside the box. Okay. And I spent 90% of my time researching and absorbing data sets and building my thesis on how to scale. And going from 10K a month to 50K a month didn't come from working 5 times harder or grinding, through sleepless nights. It came from building systems and using leverage. Without that, I would have either burnt out or stayed exactly where I was. Okay. And with that sort of impact, I've, been able to, I'm not trying to boast or anything, but able to kind of enjoy some of the fruits of my labor. As I said, I was just in Thailand. I've done lots of trips, Miami, been able to, afford certain things that I wouldn't have if I didn't have leverage. Okay. So I live a pretty frugal lifestyle. Like I don't enjoy just spending for the sake of it, but I've indulged in a few trips and experiences over the past couple months. Okay. I would not be in the same position I am today if I continued to stay stuck doing the same activities. Currently make 10 times more than I did before by working 10 times less. Remember, Doesn't matter how hard you row, it matters what boat you are in. Okay? So if you want to do the same, help more people, make more money, and actually enjoy life without needing to enslave yourself for 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, etc., you need to apply everything I covered in this video. Okay? Because I can promise you one thing. Change doesn't come from speculating further, researching, or deciding what to do, or, oh, I'm speculating. You actually need to take action on the growth. Okay? You need to take action with your learning to achieve growth. Because growth is very simple. It's what you know and what you do. Okay? And today, you've learned something. You've gained insights. If you made it to the end here, you've gained some sort of knowledge. And I can promise you that if you don't take action on this input, then you will not see any growth. No amount of more deliberation or sitting there twiddling your thumbs is going to get you to the next level. Okay? You need to take action on your learning. Okay? So that's pretty much the entirety of the presentation. And my offer to you, if you've made it this far in this video, is I've tested hundreds of offers with real data. If you're watching this and you want my help to put together your own offer, go down in the description. You can book a call with myself or my team and have a chat to see if we can assist. But yeah, so this is the entirety of the process, and I hope this has given you at least something to help yourself get to the next level. And this is the first part of a multi-part series that I'm going to be doing. And I hope you got some value from this. And I hope this has given you at least some sort of clarity on actually what to offer your clients and how to fulfill on those sort of things. Because I'll tell you this, when it comes to fulfillment and when it comes to building offers, the foundations of those will oftentimes be more impactful than the small things that you see at the top. Okay? Like I said, you need to build your foundation. You need to build your Sunday before you can then focus on so many of these other facets and other things. Okay? You need to focus on the foundations. And today we went through the foundations. How to actually service deliver, what your offer should be like, how you should price. Okay? So I hope you got value today, and I hope this was able to give you some clarity on kind of the next steps.